Hey, welcome back to another episode of Confessions from the Darkside. I'm Lunar Rising.
And I'm Darcy Darkness.
And how are you doing today?
It's hot as balls, but I'm fine, I suppose. How are you?
I'm doing good since our last episode. Been kind of doing some research a little bit and some thinking for today's episode, and then also thinking over questions from the last episode as well, from that very last question. And there was a toss up between a bunch of movies, but I think I got it figured out. So if you guys don't remember, we had a question at the end of our last episode. The question was, what horror movies made you guys go, huh? And Darcy and I have a couple of answers of our own, and we would like to hear your guys' feedback as well. Either I can start it off or you can start it off.
I think I actually already spoke about mine briefly because I'm not entirely sure if it was when we were having our discussions like without being recorded or, when it actually on one of the podcasts. But mine is I love Zack Snyder. I really, really like his work. And I love his, obviously, Justice League and his Man of Steel. But I fucking hate Army of the Dead. I told you about romanticizing the zombies. Now I was just like, come on to fuck. Come on to fuck. Stop romanticizing them. Stop making them aware. They were never supposed to be aware. They're zombies. They're literally got one thing. They are literally trying to basically kill anything that gets in their way. They're not really, big thinkers. It's more like kill, get out the way. Do you know what I mean? And when I was watching Army of the Dead, it had like see that way that during the apocalypse, as I call the pandemic, without zombies, it was one of those films that came out and folk were like, yeah, really excited to see it. And then I saw that scene, and then I see that way that I could work out what the fuck was happening. I was like, please don't do this. Please don't do this to a zombie movie. And then he fucking did it. I was like, I don't want to see romance in a fucking zombie film. I really fucking don't. I'm not one of those girls that wants to see the White Knight zombie marrying his love. Do you know what I mean? I'm wanting to see, like, carnage, gore, and chaos. I don't want to fucking see that shit. Yeah, I'm still pissed off about it, can't you tell?
I absolutely can tell. I feel like Zack Snyder, when he did Army of the Dead, he took a lot of. I want to say the best approach to saying this would be comedic aspects from Zombieland. And
I like Zombieland.
I know it sounds weird to say it that way because, the zombies in Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead was aware. But at the same time, just that feel did have a lot of Zombieland feel to it. Me personally, I thought it was an alright movie, even though, yes, I agree with your point that, zombies aren't supposed to be aware. But at the same time, the beginning of the movie does open up that it was a military experiment gone wrong.
It always is.
In hindsight, it has its perks to be different because if it was a military experience, then yes, then it can absolutely go wrong to now where zombies are aware. Not only that, and it is a virus, a parasite, whatever you want to call it, whatever it was, and viruses are known to evolve. So,
But not like that, though.
yeah, but not like that. I will agree with that point. But it's Zack Snyder and it is a movie, so I kind of take it as it is. But yes, I do agree with you 100% that the movie did have its points to be like, well, going a little far fetched on making the zombies a little, romanticized and romantic, and
I was completely turned off by the film when that started to happen. I was like, come on, fuck, mate. Seriously? Are you fucking kidding me? It's just like, Cam, just watch it to the end. I'm like, no. No. Do you know what I mean? I'm just like,
yeah,
no.
I agree
Once I
with
say
you,
no, usually
and
that's it.
but yeah, I
It's
definitely agree with you.
disappointing. Very disappointing.
So for anybody who,
I expect a wee bit
yes,
more from
yes,
him.
I agree with you. For anybody who has not seen the movie, please go into the movie with a open mind. And yes, you can definitely base the movie off our opinions of it. That would, that would maybe make you see the movie in a different light. But again, go into the movie with an open mind if you have not seen it. If you have seen it, then you can either agree or disagree. Discuss it in the comments and let us know your guys' opinions on it. Now, I have watched the movie a couple times, and it wasn't mainly for the rewatch purpose of it. It was mainly to catch any kind of, Easter eggs that Zack Snyder does like to hide in his movies. So I did like to rewatch it to see if there was anything kind of hidden in it, especially when Zack Snyder did make the movie. Dave Bautista was in it, and Dave Bautista is known for his Marvel movies. So, it was interesting to see a Marvel character, especially when they are pretty strict on their contracts, to not work with, any DC, kind of product. So
Yeah.
with it being Zack Snyder, it was interesting to see, but I guess it was okay for them to do because it wasn't a DC product or project, I guess I could say.
Yeah. Because again, it was all you can't work with one and the other, but Ryan Reynolds has changed that.
Yeah, well,
Green
I
Lantern.
mean, there's been a lot of
Deadpool.
actors that have changed that. I mean, but yes, Ryan Reynolds probably is the biggest one to do that, from Green Lantern to the good old Deadpool, the merc with the mouth.
And I'm happy about that
Oh,
decision.
absolutely, so was I.
I'm not unhappy about it.
And the biggest,
So I like how they ripped the piss out of it as well.
yes, and the biggest thing that I
They ripped the
was
piss out of it.
excited about too was the fact that he made fun of the Green Lantern in Deadpool. He made fun of his original Deadpool character in, was it Wolverine Origins? I think it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
That was when he was all bunt and stuff, wasn't it? And he was the cameo. It was
yeah,
the
he was,
experimental
yeah, Weapon
experiment.
X, I think it was called. The mouth that was sewed shut, the swords that came out of his hands, stuff like that. Yeah, that was a very horrible, horrible interpretation of Deadpool, and I am so happy that he just went back and completely wrecked himself and wiped the slate clean. That was
Yep.
funny. Now I guess we're on to mine. And I had a couple
Yeah.
choices in here that I had to think about, and a lot of them weren't necessarily, in my opinion, good enough to be put in here.
I find that hard to believe,
It,
man. I find that hard to believe.
it was because growing up, you've had so many good movies, between alien movies, monster movies, and straight up slasher and gore movies, or poltergeist movies, stuff like that. Mine, honestly, out of everything that made me go WTF, honestly, was the Human Centipede. I know we touched a little bit about that last episode, I do believe.
I've only seen. I'm trying to think. I think we only seen the first Human Centipede, and as watching, I was just like, "What the fuck am I watching?
Exactly.
What the fuck?"
Exactly. They could have done so much more with that movie. So better, especially when the movie came out, and I think the original came out in early 2000s. Oh, let me check the facts
But
on
it's
that
the fact
one.
that there's more than one of
Yes,
them.
that too.
There's more than one.
Okay, my bad. It came out in
How
it
can
came out in late 2000. It was 2009, mid 2000s. So,
But there's more than one movie, and it's just like,
yeah,
again,
so
really? What the fuck?
for for the time that the movie came out, CGI had just started getting better. Movies just started, you know, producing different things, but a lot of remakes at the same time. And
Yeah.
they decided to kind of go, and I honestly did not care for it. Now granted, I have seen all three sequences of the movie, and I
Oh
and
wow,
I
you wasted that much
I
time.
regret each and every hour that I have spent watching all of them. Trust me. But I
I regret knowing that you actually watched 3 movies for the same fucking fucked up situation. What the fuck made you do that? Seriously,
well,
what the fuck?
I had I think I touched on it a little bit last episode. When I do start something knowing that there is more than one part to it, I have to finish it. It is a OCD thing for me. I gotta finish what I started. So at the end of the day, I did not really want to watch the other two, but I wanted to see what happened, and the fact that it was just point blank stupid for the rest of them. That is definitely where my what the fuck moment came from with the horror movies. Wondering if this was the direction that these movies are going to go for future reference, and I'm glad that they didn't.
You just reminded me of a movie called Ichi the Killer.
Ichi the
I'd remembered
Killer.
it wrong. Yeah.
I haven't heard that movie in a
Because
while.
I thought it was icky. Yeah, it's the ficus for me. The poor ficus had to be absolutely abused by that jizz. I do not understand why.
I will agree.
I seen that film in the video shop. They had it on in the video shop, and they're not supposed to have that shit on during the day. But there's no weans about, obviously, because you're at school. And I came in, and they were watching it, and they're like, "What age are you?" And I was just like, 20. It's like, you know what I mean? So like they're watching it, and I was just like, "What the fuck is this?" And they're like, "It's this weird like movie that no one wants to rent. We want to know why." And I was just like, "Okay." So I seen it. I was like, "I'm gonna rent that movie." And they're like, "Why?" And I was like, "I thought not."
Exactly.
And me and my friends were just like, "The fuck is this?" And it's one of those conversation enders, no starters, when you start fucking talking
Oh yeah.
about it. It's like, what did that ficus do to you?
Oh yeah. That's a quick way to shut a conversation down real quick.
Because I had to rewind it a few times. I didn't know what the fuck I was seeing. So I was just like, did I see that? Did that actually? Am I actually witnessing this? Holy shit.
So there was another.
If you haven't seen H.E. the
Oh, I
Killer,
have.
don't watch it. Or watch it. I don't know.
I have, but yeah, absolutely. Also, too, for anybody who has not seen The Human Centipede, please do yourself a favor and do not watch it. I will say that with full confidence. Maybe you're into the stupid, gritty, raw, homemade kind of films. But if you are, again, I will advise you not to watch it. No. I will absolutely say no 100 times. And if somebody were to come up to me today and say, "Hey, you want to come over and watch the Human Centipede?" I will probably unfriend them as quick as I became their friends.
I was just about to see that. I was like, there goes a friendship.
But no, another movie I did have. I don't know if you've seen it or not. It's called Ready or Not.
I haven't, but again, just because it's a question mark movie, like it's a question. I'm thinking, have I seen it, or have I just seen maybe the cover or a poster?
So
Because my brain like associates the
it's a
title.
very it's kind of a weird-ish movie. It did have a good premise. If you remember back late 90s, early 2000s, a movie with, I want to say it was with Dakota Fanning and Robert De Niro, called Hide and Seek. Ready or Not is basically the same premise of that movie. It's about a couple who gets married, and I can't remember if it was over in some part of a European country. I can't remember. But basically, to inaugurate the new bride, the family ends up playing hide and seek. And basically, the premise of it is the bride has to survive till morning or be killed. And it's the very end of the movie. Spoilers for anybody who has not seen it. The very end of the movie, the reason why that the bride needed to survive is because she was a sacrifice for this family to keep being rich, and they played a game to kill her throughout the movie. If not, all their heads were going to explode. And the thing that really threw me off about that movie is when she did survive and all the heads exploded, it became more of a comedy, because when the head explodes, confetti blew out. And that really kind of threw me off. Like the movie itself, throughout the whole thing, I was like, "Oh, this is great." In just the last 5 minutes, 10 minutes of the movie, it made me hate the movie completely.
Even more.
Now if I were to sit there and watch the movie, I'd probably watch it up until the end of the movie and then I'd cut it off, because everything up until that point, it was actually halfway decent. It's almost like watching Kingsman, the very end of that movie, when all their heads explode into confetti.
Yeah,
It's basically,
and then that's all you can see.
yeah. So,
Well, that's memorable.
memorable. I guess you could say, yeah. Well, you ready to get into this
That's all I'll be
episode?
thinking about is confetti.
Quite honestly, we're gonna start off with good old Glenn from The Walking Dead.
Okay. I only watched season 1 and half of season 2 of The Walking Dead because, as I think I've already said to you before, I feel like it got incredibly
did.
boring and I
It
just
it
couldn't
did.
be bothered.
Again, that goes along with me starting something, needing to finish, and quite honestly, I have not even finished The Walking Dead because I completely lost interest in it. But I did watch it up until the point where they did introduce, oh, good old Mr. We'll put it this way, good old Mr. John Winchester, Mr. Dean Morgan.
Daddy douchebag, that's what I call him.
Yes,
Daddy
yes,
douchebag.
Daddy douchebag. Yes, he was introduced into The Walking Dead as Negan, and his first introduction was killing a beloved character in the TV series with a baseball bat that had nails into it called Lucille.
That's known as a chib in Scotland, by the
And
way. Lots of folk have them, including dads making them for their daughters when they've got to walk home at 1 o'clock in the morning through some dodgy parts of town.
so
Yeah,
that
we've all
was
been there.
that to me was pretty traumatic because I think it happened in season 6 or season 7. And Glenn was a character you pretty much got to know from the beginning of The Walking Dead. And he became the goofy, corny Asian kid who had his comedic moments. He was a character that everybody grew to love. And it was a pretty traumatic experience watching him die. Yeah, it was rough.
Uh,
I won't forget. I did cry.
fuck, man. Feels death? Feels death. Wow.
Oh yeah,
The
feels.
funny one's got to
I don't
die.
have them often, but I do.
The funny one's just got to die, man.
I know, I know, but it hurt. It really did. So yeah, that's my number 3, and that's just something I don't think I'll actually ever get over. And it was actually kind of funny for a Halloween prop, for a costume that we were supposed to do. My wife actually does have a baseball bat with nails in it, so I get to look in the closet and relive childhood drama and trauma that is not yet fully gotten over because I haven't finished the series, and I really don't want to because, again, it became uninterested to me. So,
Well, I'm going to go for something from the kind of, well, it's not like Walking Dead, but it's got similar Walking Dead feels without the zombies. It's when they killed Opie in Sons of Anarchy. I'm still not over that. That was violent as fuck, and it was so
okay,
fucking emotional, I swear to God. Did you watch Sons of Anarchy?
I did.
So you know what I'm talking about. I loved Opie. I absolutely love that character. And I felt dead sorry for him because of like everything that happened to him. Do you know what I mean? And then he took the hit for something that he basically it wasn't his fault. But he had to fucking die and he basically put his life in front of but his own kids and everything and also to save, well, Jax and all that shit. I was like, what the fuck? Do you know what I mean? It's like, Kurt Sutter, why the fuck did you do that? Why the hell did you have me literally bawling like a baby for days because a fictional character get fucking brutally killed in prison? Do you know what I mean? I'm, I was,
Right.
I still see when when I rewatched Sons of Anarchy. I've only did it twice. I can't watch that episode and the run up to that either, and even the episodes afterwards because the way they portray, him dying and being part of the club and stuff. It's like, but why did he have to die? Why couldn't they just killed off Clay right then and there? Do you know what I mean? I was like, so yeah,
Yeah,
I'd had a lot of I hate Clay Morrow and I just want to smack him in the face. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not Ron Perlman. He's a
I can
nice
see
guy in
that.
real life. So I'm not hated on Ron. I just when they killed Opie, that was terrible. And I think a lot of people who watched that show, they knew something was going to happen. They just didn't know that was going to happen. That was brutal. And there's a lot of brutal deaths and a lot of brutal shit that happens in Sons of Anarchy, but I thought that was by far the worst because it was graphic. What do you think?
I can I can definitely agree with you on all those points. I've only watched it when it first came out, so to be quite honest,
I don't want to relive
it's
it.
a little blurry in my
I
memory.
don't want to relive it.
Um, but yeah, reliving it is not something that I do want to do because I do remember that episode and the episodes leading up to it. And yeah, all your points that you made, I definitely can agree with.
What's your number 2? If it makes me cry,
So my
then
number,
it's a bad thing. That's all I'm saying.
so my number two is um Walter White from Breaking Bad.
Well, I haven't seen the end, so obviously he gets killed.
He does.
It's okay. I don't
Um,
care about spoilers. The good characters always die.
oh, I know they do, and I mean, he was a good character. He was a bad character. He was a good character. It was kind of flip floppy with him.
Flip floppy.
But yes, flip floppy. But altogether, he started doing what he did because he was dying
Yep.
originally. He had cancer. So he was trying to make a life better for his family.
When he's gone.
And that, yes, when he's gone. And that to me was, in my opinion, a noble act, whether he was going about it the right way.
His heart was in the
Because
right place.
let's face it, he was, yes, his heart was in the right place. Well, I mean, his heart was in the
Yeah,
right place when he was cooking too, because let's be
but
honest,
he also made the
he
good
was a
drugs.
madman in the
He made
kitchen.
the good drugs. Exactly.
Yes, the good ones. The good ones. But all in all, he did have a brother-in-law who was a DEA agent, detective, kind of going through once they actually kind of really introduce the brother-in-law and everything like that. You kind
Yeah.
of realized where everything was going to start heading, but because of the
How
eight or
many
nine
seasons?
season,
How many
eight or nine
seasons?
seasons that Breaking Bad had,
What?
it
I was pregnant when I
8 or
started
9,
watching
I
it, and
do
I was
believe.
there's only a couple. Holy shit! Wow, it went on for that length. Wow, that's a long show.
Let me see how many seasons of the Breaking Bad. I
5?
could be wrong.
That's still a lot,
No,
man.
5 seasons. Okay,
You just felt like
I
9.
was wrong. Yeah, there's 5. It really did. Once you started
Okay,
getting to like that last 2 seasons of it, and you're
I'm still
going
watching
like,
this.
"Holy crap!" Yeah, he does die at the very end of it, and it was, if I can remember correctly, because it's been a while from since I've seen it. I do believe it was from his brother-in-law.
Yeah,
Ended up killing him. And it was heartbreaking because he was going through all this. He was trying to make a better life for his family. He was trying so hard to even rekindle his marriage throughout the whole thing, but he just got lost in the money. And I feel like that's honestly a premise for, I guess I would say, majority of drug dealers, makers, cooks. They just get lost in the money because they realize how much money they're bringing in. So at the end of the day, it still was a rough one just because he was trying to do good by his family and he was trying to make a better life for them, and he just ended up failing at the end of the day.
that doesn't surprise me. Although I'm just still surprised that like there was that many episodes because it was predictable and you knew whatever goes up must
Yes.
come down when it comes to like stuff like that. Like you're at the top of your game, you're going to fall, you're going to get too greedy, and shit's going to happen. And then that's kind of the shit that literally was happening, wasn't it? It was always a bigger guy coming in, and it's like, where the fuck did this prick come from? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It does happen, and like you said, it is predictable. This whole series, like, this isn't one of my series. It was kind of a part of it, part of this topic, but my wife had actually introduced me to an HBO series or a Star series called Power. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but if not, it is about basically a drug kingpin named Ghost that lives in New York City, and throughout if I can remember correctly, it has 6 seasons, but at the very end of it, it shows throughout the whole series, the FBI is tracking him down, other drug people are tracking him down. people that he's wronged in the past are tracking him down. And then at the very last episode, you actually end up finding out that his own son is the
Oh,
one that shot the bullet and killed him.
that's nice.
Yeah, so it was a that was one thing. It was because he was, in my opinion, he was the same way as Walter White. He did what he did, he was good at it, but he was doing it to make a better life for his family.
Negative.
So at the end of it, he had a lot of negative, aspects throughout his family. His kids weren't too fond of him. One of his kids ended up dying due to the life that he lived, stuff like that. But in turn, it turned out to end up being his own flesh and blood that pulled the trigger at the end of the series. Sorry for anybody who hasn't seen it. Go watch it. I do recommend Power. Um, and they do have a couple spin-offs now. They have a spin-off of the one with his son, and then they have a spin-off of one with another character, and then they have a spin-off of the guy that was his partner throughout the very first season as well. So it was a very good series. So for anybody who hasn't watched it, sorry for spoiling the end of the first actual Power. You'll get over it. Just watch it, and you'll probably still end up being like WTF at the end of the season.
Well, my two is my number one. My number one and my number two are the same because this character dies
Okay.
twice. It is a TV show called Warehouse 13. And I love that show. Again, it went off on a tangent, but what fucking show doesn't when they have nothing else to write about? They always have good concepts. But Steve Jenks basically is a new agent that they bring in for Warehouse 13. Warehouse 13 is basically where they store all the artifacts that basically have tried to destroy Earth, basically. And there's like loads of different warehouses in time and different parts of the universe and all that carry on. So Jinx was this other agent, and he goes undercover, and then he's killed. But his friend Claudia, who works in the warehouse, obviously she was really upset, and they played was it Field and Track or Track and Field? The band's called cover of Running Up That Hill. Now I love Placebo's cover, so I thought that was the best. But when I heard this is like incredibly sad. And when he gets killed the first time, it's not fucking nice. It's like seeing like they do like a montage like of like the best times of like Claudia and Jinx's friendship. It was very, very sad. And then he gets brought back, and as you know, if you're not supposed to be there, then you will end up finding out eventually. If you've been brought back, there's always something that kind of they touch upon it in Buffy and things like that. You weren't supposed to be there, and someone's brought you back, and stuff starts happening to Claudia. Her health starts to go fucked up because she's brought him back, and she doesn't tell anybody, and she has to pick between her life and Jinx's life, and they basically tell her he's not supposed to be here. So they kill him with saying that he had some sort of heart condition he didn't know about, and that's what killed him. He just wasn't supposed to be there, and that was absolutely heartbreaking because she loses someone who she's friends with, and someone who gets her, then he dies, and then she literally is by herself. Then they bring her back and bring him back, and then it happens again. But it's even more sadder the second time because she's had to be told, look, he has to go. And I was just like, this is traumatic. And every time I hear that song, whether it's the original Kate Bush one or a cover, I'm just like, I'm not over this death. I'm not over this death. Why? Just gives me a flashback of the montage they do with the song, and then that's me. So I'm still pissed off at that because not once did they kill Jinxie, they killed him twice. So they had to get me in the fucking feels twice. So that's why deaths from TV shows that I've never forgiven writers for doing, but they still traumatize me when I talk about them today.
Okay. Yeah. That's actually a.
No, my husband. Oh my god. And can I get a bonus after yours?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
my
You can.
husband. Thank you.
I figured
I
we'd
need
throw a
to.
bonus in there as well. So.
Right, that's it. Yeah, my husband had to remind me of that, man. I'm just like, what the fuck?
So, My number one, it's a toss up. But the one that I'm actually gonna heavily lean towards on this one is Amy Pond from Doctor Who.
I don't watch Doctor Who, so I don't know who that is.
I can unfortunately thank an ex for getting me watching Doctor Who. But
Are you throwing someone under the bus?
I am. But Amy Pond is actually played by Karen Gillian.
All right, I know how. Well, I
Yes,
know who you're talking about. The Scottish lassie with the shitty Scottish accent. Yeah.
yes. And she played in, obviously, she played in the Guardians of the Galaxy series as Nebula, and
Yeah.
she also played in a horror movie that I'm kind of stuck in the middle of on that one,
That isn't the.
called Oculus.
That's not the one I was thinking of.
No?
No, I mean you said that, but maybe the one that I was thinking of actually I've never seen this, but I'm looking to see who's in it. It's got again people. It's got the guy who plays Nightwing in Titans. It's also get Katie Sackhoff. Oh, sorry,
No, you're fine.
I like from Battlestar Galactica. I think
Yes.
everybody does. So I'm not offending anyone. I'm just looking at the people who are in it again. It's not huge people that were in it. She's more the most famous, obviously, out of the cast.
But while you're looking up and stuff like that, um, Amy Pond she became a very lovable character in Doctor Who, and just to her being killed off again, it's been a while since I've seen Doctor Who, so I can't exactly remember how she was killed off, but or at least that season with her in it, it still became a very hard, traumatic death, just because she did become a very lovable character, and just like every one of Doctor Who's companions throughout the series, they're always skeptical at first. They're always, confused. They don't know what's going on, stuff like that. And then they start to pretty much each and every one of them do start to basically get feelings for the Doctor, love the Doctor, really want to be the Doctor's friend, stuff like that. So it was just a hard one. I really don't, again, can't remember too much about it because it's been so long since I've seen that season. So I don't really have much to say about it besides just touching on that one.
So I can have
You
my
can have your
bonus.
bonus.
Okay. This is from a TV show called Dead Like Me, and it's when they kill off the gay couple.
Okay.
Have you
Yes.
seen it? If you didn't think it, see the very first time I seen Dead Like Me, I seen like the clip for it where she gets hit by a toilet seat. If you're not aware, Dead Like Me is a TV show. It's about a Grim Reaper, and she dies because she gets hit by a toilet seat that falls out the space station or something from space, and that's how Georgia Glass gets killed.
Yep.
And basically, it's really, really good actors they've got playing the Reapers, but they've all got different bodies and they look different, obviously, because they've got to inhabit another body, their spirit, to actually take people's souls. And when people die, they get their happiness, basically. I'm actually quite upset when I think about it because it is quite a powerful show. It is dark comedy, but it's still really, really sad. And it's just like they go and he takes one life, and then the partner turns around and says he doesn't want to like live without him, so he takes his own life. And it was just, oh my god, it was absolutely heart wrenching. I thought the first episode of the wee girl being killed in a accident was the saddest thing ever, being a parent, but no. When the gay couple literally they both died at the same time, I was like, oh my god, this is just absolutely saddened because again, if that was the love of your life, most people would do the exact same thing. It's not, very far fetched. That's what I think got me the most and has not stuck with me, obviously, because I forgot because I was trying to push that out my fucking brain. You know what I mean? My husband comes in and tells me about it. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, that was how sad it was. But if you've not seen Dead Like Me, or Warehouse 13, or I was going to say System of Down, Sons of Anarchy, because I've shortened it in Doctor Who. So if you've not seen any of those things, please go watch them. Tell us what you think. But Dead Like Me is ancient. It's been out for about 20 years, and then they brought out a shitty movie that's not anywhere near as good, so don't bother with that.
Yes.
Right,
Yes, next. Um,
right now, this is the most, like, in our opinion, not by anybody else. No one is telling us or making us say these things before we get into it. It's traumatic death scenes from childhood for me that still traumatize you to this day. And you said it's just for you, it's like your whole life, not childhood.
yes, yes. It's just there's a lot of aspects of my life that I kind of blocked out of my memory. Not that I really had that bad of a traumatic childhood, but just when it came to TV series and stuff like that, I didn't really watch too much TV. Um,
Movies with that
movies,
content.
yes, I would, but now that I am older, I do rewatch and watch older series and stuff like that. I do watch a lot of stuff, so
This is from movies anyway, so it's traumatic death scenes from movies. So what's your number 3?
whew, traumatic deaths from movies. I thought we did that last week.
No, this is from
Oh, from
childhood.
childhood. That is right. Okay.
Yeah, death scenes.
Whew.
And remember, you're more closer to the 90s.
I am, and that's why it's even hard.
There wasn't as many as there was in the 80s.
Yeah, that's why it's a little harder for me. I'm gonna have to skip to give myself a second thought on this one because I do have some wrote down, but I gotta rethink it a little bit.
Well, maybe when I talk about the ones I've got, then you might trigger something.
Yes. So if you want to go ahead and like I said, I will.
No problem. Well, mine is from good old. What year is this? I want to get the year right. Okay, so this was out in 1991, which would make me 9. I don't know, 8. 8, yes. And it is a classic movie. Dan Aykroyd, Jamie Lee Curtis, Macaulay Culkin, and Anna Kolumsky. Now, anybody who's born in the 80s and was brought up in the 90s knows about My Girl and when Thomas G gets killed. And why he actually ends up being killed is actually Veda, who's Anna Kolumsky's character, because she's a wee selfish bitch. So she's their childhood friends, and Thomas J has loads of allergies, and now he's stung by a bee because he's going to get Veda's ring, her mood ring that was her mum's, because her mum died when she was a baby. Instead of her going to get her fucking self, he went and done it because he fancied her, or in America has a crush on Veda, but Veda is obsessed with her English teacher, who's about 50, by the way, which is creepy as fuck. Um, so when they do an open casket for Thomas J, Veda's dad, if you've never seen the film, Veda's dad, Dan Aykroyd, is a widower, and he is not a mortician. They own a funeral home, don't
Yes.
they? And obviously they have Thomas G all like made up with the coffin open, and obviously he's got like sting marks all over him, and that's played by Macaulay Culkin. Away from the coffin in front of everybody because she's making it all about herself again. Do you
Yep.
know what I mean? At his funeral, and it was just like traumatizing as fuck. It says not only are you a fucking attention seeker, you're basically trying to steal the attention away from his death. Do you know what I mean? His funeral, what the fuck? So that was my number 3, Veda's selfish outburst at the funeral. And I know people grieve in different ways, but when you watch the film, you're just like, why didn't you just go do it yourself?
Yes.
But
So
is that you? Have you
yeah,
found?
so I do.
What did you think of My Girl?
Um, yeah, so I mean, even for me, even though it was a kids movie, but it was also kind of like a girls' film,
I could see
kind of
it.
a romantic film. Even growing up for myself, that actually did hit pretty hard. Because it was sad because it's like losing your best friend or a family member. Of course, she's gonna have that outburst seeing him in that open casket because she's used to seeing him with his glasses. She doesn't necessarily fully knows what's going on, but she does, and it's one of those things that it is very heart wrenching and heartbreaking to watch. So
It, yes, and our generation though, you were born in 1990, so you were just obviously anybody who's born, I think from 1995, and backwards, basically the 80s and the 80s and the 70s, 60s. Everybody was subjected to something that was socially acceptable, which we've talked about much in our previous podcast. That things are socially acceptable then, but I don't think they would be now. If they remade My Girl, they'd have to change a fuck ton of stuff.
Absolutely.
There's no way they would put children through that traumatization of, even though things like that do happen, but still they would not. They'd have to rethink it like everything else. There's no way in
they
hell.
would. That'd be a tearjerker, especially in today's day and age. That is one thing that I don't think they could absolutely touch on completely. So, yeah, I definitely agree with you on that one. I have.
Anything yet?
I have. So for my number 3 spot it's a classic movie, something I do remember watching as a child that it was extremely hard to watch, and it had a brilliant cast to boot. And like I said, it is a classic. Cast is Tom Hanks and Michael Clark Duncan. It was The Green Mile. It was John's death at the very end of the movie, and it was heart-wrenching to watch because you have this character, you have this big, bulky, muscular character named John that is played by Michael Clark Duncan at the time, to where he had extraordinary gifts. He was held in the prison for, I think, if I can remember correctly, accidentally killing somebody. But he has extraordinary gifts that he is able to heal people, and he ends up befriending almost everybody in the prison, such as cellmates, the guards, and even the captain. He became a very lovable character, very lovable, asset to the movie. And this movie was, I can't remember, based on the 60s, 70s, 80s, I can't remember. But at the very end of the movie, everybody fell in love with this guy. For his, not only did he help Tom Hanks' character out from, I think if I can remember correctly, he had a issue with his private area, whether if I can remember correctly, whether it was peeing, because I remember throughout the movie he had a very hard time peeing, and also he was having struggles at home with his wife because he was having erectile dysfunction issues. And he ended up becoming one of the leading characters that fell in love with this prisoner named John, because John does end up curing him of what he has going on. So they all befriended him, and at the end of the movie, he was to be sentenced to death by the electric chair, and the captain, played by Tom Hanks, could not give the order to do it, but they still had to go through with it anyway. It was hard to watch, and it was a tearjerker. It honestly was. It was just a great movie all around, and just that ending, if it doesn't make you at least tear up, I'm wondering if you even have a soul.
Or if you're human or you're from another planet and that's funny because it's not funny. Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah. No. Definitely. Yeah. I agree. Totally.
What is your number 2?
Number 2, right. I kind of went on a tangent in my story in my writings in front of me. So, this movie I actually got as a double feature, right? I don't know if you still get that double features, but it was in VHS. It was 2 rolled down books that had been made into movies, and it was 1990, the year you were born. You get one of my favourite fucking kids films, and also it was with the original Willy Wonka with Gene Wilder. So these 2 movies, this is how I was going on a tangent, but my mum thought this was socially acceptable and appropriate to give me as a child to watch over and over again. First of all, The Witches, it's been remade with Anne Hathaway. I don't like her. I don't think she's a particularly good actress. Shit is Catwoman.
I normally do joke around with a lot of people and say the only good movie that she ever played in was Brokeback Mountain, and that's only because she bared breasts.
I don't even want to see hers. No thanks. No.
I thought they were nice.
I'm just like, nah, I'm just not interested. She can keep her clothes on. I'll pay her. I'll keep her clothes on. Sorry, Anne, I'm not body shaming or anything. I just don't find you a very good actress. So The Witches came out in 1990. It had Angelica Houston. She's like the most famous actor in it. Ron Atkinson is in it as well. Again, it was all about, if you're not aware, the witches and how they think children smell of poo, apparently. Some children do. But the Grand High Witch has got to be the scariest fucking thing ever when she takes off her mask and her wig. Like, they don't have toes and stuff. It's like squaring off toes and all that carry on. That's not the bit that I found particularly scary and traumatizing when she takes off her mask and she literally looks
Delicious.
I don't even know how to describe poor Angelica Houston, man, because she's right. I'm going to say something. That sounds odd for me to say, but you'll understand what I mean. Being alternative, yes. But she's a very odd-looking woman,
Yes.
but she's that odd that she's hot, Angelica Houston, because she's got this kind of dominatrix look about her. So, I mean, it's like she would totally own you.
Okay, yeah, I can agree.
So,
I definitely can agree.
So there we go. I've just put that out there. But that's not the bit that's traumatizing. It's where she turns the children into mice. Because you see that transformation in front of you. And this is 1990. And they're showing you a child convulsing and shaking like they're taking a seizure with green smoke coming out their mouth. And their face is fucking changing in front of you to get more rodent-like. That is fucking traumatizing. And all these witches staring and getting off in it. The fact that the child's in pain, the child is changing, and that they're a mouse and they're trying to kill it. Do you know what I mean? By eating chocolate. And it's like got a wee it's like
Yes.
So they drug the kids chocolate and basically it's like a pyramid scheme, buy all this chocolate and kill all the weans in your area. Do you know what I mean? Yes, it is incredibly frustrating. It is incredibly. I can't believe my mum thought that was appropriate. And again, 1990. I was 7 when that film came out, and again, traumatized. And the fact that do you know that film was on second, the first film that was on in the VHS was Wonka. So see, instead of your mum fast forwarding it back in VHS days, so you could watch The Witches. No, she used to let me watch 2 movies if it was that video. So I had to watch Willy Wonka, and that's what I was trying to. I was thinking about the concept of the original Willy Wonka. My awakening was it's like the child's version of Seven.
Okay.
Think of it. All those kids, right? They won a golden ticket to basically get a lifetime supply of chocolate, but it's actually for him to give up as being the creator of said chocolate factory. He gives it to Charlie, right? But think, there's definitely sloth in there, greed, gluttony. Do you know what I mean? There's plenty of the deadly sins in that fucking chocolate factory. Not only. Yes. And the golden tickets. It literally was like a Hunger Games situation. So it's like crossing Hunger and Seven, and that's Willy Wonka. That's what when I was typing up my description of the witches, I was sitting going, oh, I was like, what were they doing to us? Seriously, as children, what the fuck? And again, it's like in 40 years' time, they're going to do it like Charlie's the head of the chocolate factory and he's going to have a Hunger Games situation on his hands again with these kids who don't give a fuck, spoiled as fuck, and want things that they can't have. So basically, they're pushed to do what Violet is greedy and has to have the chewing gum, isn't it? Or is it? She was the chewing gum, yeah. And then it was the everlasting gobstoppers and the lickable wallpaper. Would you lick the wallpaper before someone else? No, you fucking would not. Germs, it's disgusting. Oh, but yes, that's I basically. So it's a cross between Seven and the Hunger Games, and you agreed with me that yes, it actually is. So I'm not the only person. Have you thought about that? Does it give you Seven feels? Again, if you've not seen Seven, it's Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt, and it's a fucking amazing movie. It's technically horror, thriller, psychological thriller.
Very twisted.
Very twisted, yes. And that was basically my take on my number 2. I just thought I'd say that those 2 movies my mum subjected me to, basically both one after the other. 2 traumatizing movies back to back. No wonder I turned out to be the person I am today if that's the fucking movies that I was allowed to watch on my own with no supervision, no less.
And we love you for the person that you are.
Imagine if I was girly. Holy shit, man. I don't think I'd like me.
Yeah.
I love how you're just like, I was like, I'm
Anyways,
not
my
answering that.
number two.
I'm not answering that.
So, my number two, I grew up. So this again is another Tom Hanks movie.
He's got feel good movies.
Grew up. Yes, Tom Hanks is an amazing actor. I loved pretty much everything that he was in. One movie that I know I get a lot of shit for, and that movie that I didn't necessarily care for would have been Castaway. But anyways, we're gonna not touch on that one because I don't feel like getting kicked by anybody anytime soon.
Okay.
Um, but the movie that actually is a very well-known movie, and it was Forrest Gump. Bubba's death scene in that movie, just thinking about it brings a little bit of tears to my eyes because Bubba and Forrest were the only friends that they had. They're the ones that connected with each other perfectly. They're the ones that had, well, I mean, a great idea to start a fishing company called Bubba Gumps. They connected even though they were from, best way to put it, different sides of the track. But I mean, it's kind of the same story. You and I are from, different sides of the country. We came together, came up with an idea to start a podcast. We became friends over the last couple of months, since we started talking, and here we are now. But unfortunately, in Forrest Gump, if you have not seen it, please do yourself a favor and go watch it.
Soundtrack in that movie.
Great soundtrack. But Forrest goes through life basically at a bus stop, telling people his stories of life. And then he gets into his life story about him and Bubba going into the war. Bubba ended up getting shot, and either shot or hit with shrapnel. I can't remember which one it was. I do believe he was shot and killed. And it's pretty heart-wrenching. You're a monster if you did not at least tear up, and if you cried, then you are an angel. But if you didn't tear up or cry, you are a monster, and we have special places in hell for people like you who do not cry
No.
to very sad moments in movies like that.
Not everyone cries when they watch it. When they think about it, they might cry. Like a delayed reaction. Not everyone cries. Although Forrest Gump is you try, it's one of those things, it's an amazing movie if you haven't seen it. It's like such a good, Tom Hanks is amazing in it, and the full story, you feel so sorry for him from day one, and then he overcomes shit, man, and you're like, yes. Do you know what I mean? And then shit like that happens, like when he goes into the military and then he meets his friends and then that happens, and then some of the other stuff that happens in it to him. You just see him, he literally is the good guy that loads of bad shit happens to, man, and you're just like, when the fuck is he going to get a fucking break? Do you know what I mean? It's just,
Yeah,
so sad.
absolutely.
But again, a brilliant movie though. Shouldn't be laughing when I say that, but you know what I mean? It's just like, it's a brilliant movie though, an amazing soundtrack, amazing cast, just, again, one of those things I hope they never fucking remake, because I will have a lot to say about that.
Oh, absolutely. There would be absolutely way too much to say just because that movie is a classic. You couldn't have had a better cast to begin with, especially having Tom Hanks. The soundtrack, like you said, was absolutely amazing. And just through and through, the movie had so much of a life story and life lessons too that we could honestly probably definitely use in a world that is going on today. But yeah, that part was just it was definitely gut wrenching. It is a great movie for anybody who has not seen it. Please, again, I will repeat myself, and I will repeat myself happily. Please do yourself a favor and watch this movie. If you have not seen it, if you have seen it and you are one of the many people that have cried, teared up at any part of the movie, Bubba's death, the death of Forrest's mother, or anything like that, then you are among the people who need a hand clap. So, yeah, I think think we're ready for numero uno.
Oh my god, my mic was up. I'm sorry. I thought you laughed at me and that's why you disappeared. No, mine is The Golden Child.
Gotcha. Okay, The
The
Golden Child.
description, it
It's been
used
a
to
while since
be,
I've seen it.
well, over here it was like a 15, but it's PG now. So it's an American dark fantasy martial arts action comedy film starring Eddie Murphy. So again, film was out in the 80s. I think it was the 80s. I'm sure it's the 80s because of, well, the style of clothes looks like Beverly Hills Cop. I'm still in that phase where his shit don't. 1986, and it was a movie that lasted for an hour and 35 minutes. One of them. It's got Charles Dance in it as well, which you'll know from the dad Lannister in Game of Thrones. Well, The Golden Child basically is a movie that has, when you think about it as an adult now, I'm trying to say, Charles Dance plays like a demon called Sarum Noomsday. And it's about a wee boy who has magical powers, including necromancy. He's over in Tibet. Eddie Murphy is a police officer and he ends up protecting this boy, but he has to go to the like really dodgy parts of whatever cities, and I don't know what city it is. I'm trying to think. It doesn't have to tell you. I keep thinking it's New York, but I bet it's LA or something like that. But anyway, it's a city of some sort in America, and what they do is they're trying to make the boy. First of all, he's in Tibet, and then Saddam Numsey massacres all the Tibetan monks that are actually looking after the wee boy and keeping him safe because they don't want people like Saddam Numsey to actually get a hold of him because it would be fatal for a demon to be able to bring people back to life, wouldn't you? Definitely bringing anybody back. So basically, they're trying to. There's like got snake ladies in it, which I was really intrigued to see. Snake lady. But again, the CGI would not have been anywhere near as good as it is now in 1986 for that. And I doubt that was a. I think they spent like 12 million on it or something. The budget was between 12 and 24 million, and it made 149.4 million dollars. Fuck me. That's a blockbuster, even though it's cheesy. So it's got serious aspects in the movie, again, about the child being abducted, which again is fine. But they start to like, I don't know if, can you remember that they like put blood in the kid's porridge to make him impure because they're trying to turn him as well. So there's that blood sacrifice making you impure for the soul. Uh, Again, like I said, he
Yes,
could bring
yes.
back the dead. Also, he could do astral projection as well. All the way through the movie, it's literally protecting the boy, finding the boy, and all that carry on because he's been abducted, and then he gets taken, obviously, from Tibet to America. And it's just all the violence surrounding this kid. And then he make it the kind of iconic scene for me is when he does the Pepsi can thing. You know, where he makes it into a wee animated like entity. I was like, that kid's got to have some PTSD. First of all, being abducted by a demon, then bringing folk to life, then the people who looked after him from a young age were all slaughtered in front of him, and getting to eat a not very tasty snack with blood in it, not very good, like Mingers, as the thing reads it as. And at the end, Saddam say you see his true form, and that's scary as fuck. That is incredibly scary, seeing his true form. So that actually, even though it's like got comedy, and the fact that they said it was martial arts with Eddie Murphy, but no, I was like just the fact there's demonic stuff in it. Demonic stuff, blood sacrifice, obviously a child witness and all that. That film, when I was a wee, see at the end, it was one of those bits that my mum would like switch off. See, like they talk about it in Friends, like Phoebe's mum would like cut off the bad things that happened so she didn't know. That has happened with a couple of movies with me, and Golden Child was one of them. Robocop was another. Why my mum let us watch Robocop, the original Robocop, when I was about 6 or something is beyond me because the start of that film is fucking traumatic. So I picked this film because I was explaining that would I show my child the Golden Child? Maybe not right now, even though he's 11, because when I think about it, it's harmless technically by this day and age standards, but back then it's not. About kids being abducted, kids being basically because it's a form of abuse. What they were doing, they were like trying to like poison him, making him impure with their blood, and it's demonic blood as well. It's not just blood; it was Saddam Husein's blood as well. So that was basically it was traumatic for me to watch the ending, and it took me to I was in my 20s and I bought it in DVD thinking it won't be that bad, and for me it still was that bad because I was reliving that feeling of the anxiety of that part of the movie coming up. I can watch it now. I can watch it now, but it was still a part of my life I could not because it was just like give me that horrible feeling, of oh my god, it's coming up, that scene's coming up, that scene's coming up. And again, people probably think I'm like the golden child. Really? Yes, really. I was once a child who was innocent. I was not always this way, so that's my free. Did you feel that way?
All right. Yeah. You kind of put the nail on the head. Like I'm trying to even think of something to say that I can't
If they
even.
remade
You
it,
know.
they would fuck it up. That's what we try and explain.
Oh,
Because they would try and make it like for this
absolutely.
world, and they'd make it see, like you said, corny as fuck. When it was supposed to be, like it describes it in the fucking description, dark fantasy martial art action comedy. Do you know what I mean? That's hitting a whole wheelhouse. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So a dark fantasy with martial arts, with action and comedy. It was the 80s. They loved to put so many different labels in there, so it would literally be captured by everything. So it wouldn't just be just a dark action movie with a wee bit of comedy. No, they wanted to describe it so they'd get even more people into the cinema to see it. No wonder it made over almost $150 million at the cinema.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely can
And
agree.
looking at the poster and it
Well,
says Eddie Murphy is the chosen one. Really? I don't think so. No one's choosing him for anything. Not no. Sorry, I love Eddie Murphy though.
you're fine. So mine's gonna be just a little bit kind of sideways on this one. Yeah, because
Sideways?
it was a toss up for me to pick for this one. Childhood, movie deaths that were traumatic. It was hard for me. For this very last one, I had a few in mind. I'll rattle off of the couple of them that I was gonna pick. One of them was gonna be Ellie from Up. So yes, it was a kids movie. It was animated.
I've never seen it. But the cover
Yes,
looks
it's a
depressing.
great
It's the little
movie.
guy with
It's
the
cute,
bones, isn't it?
adorable, but it's sad. He loses his wife, and then he goes on an adventure to try to go basically take his house to where his wife wanted to go see, or something like that. But it was very traumatic and very sad. Another one for me is another kids movie. This one was actually more or less around the time when it was in the 90s. I'll put it that way. It's another kids movie. It was the time. It was Littlefoot's mom in the movie. Uh yes.
Oh, that is sad though. Seriously, I mean they literally
Absolutely.
killed all our
They did.
favourite beloved fucking characters when we were
That's
younger
why we
though.
grew up
Have you noticed
why we
that?
grew up the
Can
way
they
we
do
did
that
because
now?
they didn't care about our feelings.
Ugh. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
They made it. They hardened us for
Nope.
the world. Now
So
they just don't.
the very
They just
last one,
complain
and this
about it.
is my number one spot for my very last third one. This is a heartfelt, light movie. So compared to the other ones, or compared to how our podcast has been going so far, this is kind of a lighter, side of everything, but it's still extremely sad. And it is Marley and
I haven't watched it because of the fact that I rescue
yeah.
and rehome dogs. That's why I've never watched that film because there's no way that I would be able to. It's just
Yeah.
no.
So,
It's like no.
obviously, if this is part of a traumatic movie, deaths, you kind of get the gist of why it's up there. For any of those who have not seen Marley and Me, I'm not going to get into too much detail of it because even just thinking about it is a very sad movie because I have owned dogs and I have lost a few of my own dogs, and it's not easy at all. It hurts a lot
It
more
still
than
hurts.
yeah, it still hurts a lot more than what people think it does.
I
But
actually cried more when my dog died, my first dog died, than when my dad died. People think that's weird. I had a delayed reaction when my father died because it was sudden. But when I lost my first dog, I was absolutely devastated. I was, oh god, and
Yes.
that's why it's said. See, when a dog is killed or hurt in a movie, like in John Wick, I'll lose my shit.
Yep.
Like I go John Wick, literally lose it. I was like, seriously, nope, nope.
Yeah.
I understand you very, very well.
So yeah, the movie follows. I think it was Owen Wilson followed a guy who ended up getting a very very rambunctious and wild dog, and ends up growing up with him throughout his life. Ends up having a family, and the dog is still there, but then the dog does get sick and does end up passing away. And it just throughout the movie, it's almost like Beethoven. You grew to love the dog because of how wild and rambunctious and goofy and lovable that dog is. And then it at the end of the movie, it gets taken away from you, and it hurts. It does, and I'm not going to like too in depth with it because it is just thinking about it still a tearjerker moment, and I like crying.
It shows you that you have a soul.
That's
Sorry, I should not laugh about that.
somewhere in there. I don't know exactly know, but it's somewhere. It
It's like
like
I've lost some of it. I lost like some of it's there, some of it's here, there, and everywhere. Yeah,
it
you
does make
know.
it
It's like
does make an appearance from time to time.
yeah, it kind of has to.
But that's my top three. Any of you have not seen any of the movies that we have discussed, if you guys do like the dark and twisted with a little bit of a tearjerker aspect, or if you guys like the calm and solemn side of things with having a tearjerker at the end of it, in the middle of it, or in some cases the beginning of it, which doesn't really happen often because you don't know the characters all that well. But if it is something that you guys think you can handle, make sure you guys have a box of tissues handy. And please check out any of these movies that we have talked about today.
We'll list the movies that we are talking about in the description below if you haven't seen them. Also, can you tell us what TV show death scenes are you still not happy about and you haven't forgiven people about, writers for? And also, is there any films from your childhood that you think literally made you the person you are today because of the traumatization that your parents made you by watching them and Hollywood for making them? So, because they technically did this. So. Let's bring Hollywood into
Yes,
this.
let's bring Hollywood into this. But I do have one more TV series death that I do want to touch on. And you and I can discuss it because it is a TV series that you and I both have watched, that you and I both have loved, and that you and I both, I know, have it hurt a little bit with the deaths of these two characters in these series. This was kind of my bonus, but I didn't get to say it because I figured wait until right before we go into the outro for this. But
Yeah, totally.
um, so again, as I mentioned, this is something that I know you and I both loved. We've talked about it throughout our Discord. Um, so the two deaths in a series that I want to bring to light and have a little bit of a discussion over is going to be Mr. Elijah and Klaus Michelson.
Oh no, my God, I was not ready for this today. Why? Why?
uh,
No. We've discussed this plenty, and oh my God, I don't know.
this, like I said, this was going to
Yeah,
be
that's
my.
how we fucking feel about it. Damn you!
This was going to be my
If you're
bonus.
not aware, no, but if you're not aware who Klaus and Elijah Michelson are, they are the two out of the what, five originals or six original vampires that were in
Five
the
or
Vampire
six, yeah.
Diaries, the originals and the Legacies universe. And Klaus was the hybrid. He was the firstborn. No, he wasn't the firstborn. He was a bastard child of the mother and the head of the werewolves, and that's why he is a werewolf and a vampire hybrid.
Yes.
And Elijah is his brother. Elijah's older, isn't he?
Elijah is
I'm
older.
sure who was oldest? Was it Finn? Finn looked older.
I think Fenn was the oldest.
But if the scene that you're talking about, and it's not even the scene, the last season was a big build up to something, and when this happened, it was just like, are you fucking kidding?
It is
So yes.
one of those episodes, you can definitely disagree with me. It's perfectly fine. That you and I have both discussed throughout the podcast that when it comes to TV series or movies, a lot of the times you and I can predict what's going to happen throughout the movies. This was one of those times that kind of was not predictable, but it was at the same time. You knew that the season finale was building up for something big, and you knew that something was going to happen when it comes to big buildups the way it was. Usually it is a major death. The reason why it was predictable because you knew one of the brothers were going to. The unpredictable part was not expecting both of them to die.
Yes, because if you again haven't watched it, then you don't know that there was a pact, wasn't it? When his parents actually, when their mother made them what they were, because it was like kind of like all for one, basically.
Yep, all for
Wasn't it? It
one
was kind
and
of
one for all. Yep. Good old Three Musketeers quote put in there.
Yeah, but it was literally them saying they had each other's back. Now, if you haven't watched this, then you don't realise there's a fucked up relationship between all the Michaelsons.
All of them.
They're
Yeah.
a fucking really, they're literally probably the most fucked up family, I think, in TV.
You could not
So
find
they are.
you could not find five family members that hated and loved each other more than the Michaels.
Oh, he had some issues though, Klaus.
Yes.
He really did.
Minus his anger issues, he had trust issues, he had commitment issues, he had. I could go on with the he hads and issues.
He had so
all day
many red
long.
flags that so many red flags that you couldn't even. He had so much red flags. There was no hope for Klaus. There just was no hope.
There wasn't, and quite honestly, it's actually kind of ironic that you say that, but the only hope that there was for Klaus was hope. And
Hope, yes.
Hope, if none of you have seen the series, is Klaus's daughter. She is
Yes, a
the
vampire had a daughter.
yes,
A vampire hybrid had a daughter
the
with another
vampire.
werewolf. Clarify that.
Well, I thought it was he had a daughter by a witch because she was a tribid.
Yes, but it didn't tell you that for ages, though, remember?
Yeah, okay,
That
yeah, that
she.
is true. Yeah, that it didn't tell you that, but yeah,
Sorry,
she
I
is.
have rewatched that show plenty. They didn't know who she was because she was adopted, remember?
Yep.
Remember? So she didn't know about her lineage and who she was because she was like royalty, technically, because of her lineage of werewolves.
Yes.
And she was sent away because her people were slaughtered and there were werewolves all the time, weren't they? And they could only turn back like once or something instead of the other way about.
Yes.
Remember?
Yep. And
that was basically witches and vampires and shit. And that's why they hate each other. So yeah, it's a very good TV show. Very, very good story. In my opinion, I ended up being more of a Originals fan than a Vampire Diaries fan towards the end because it had more action, better story. But the whole scene that you're talking about with Elijah and Klaus, it's something again you didn't expect, but when you did, you were just like, "No, seriously, are you kidding me?"
yep.
Just like, really?
Yep.
I was like, no.
That's why I wanted to throw this one at the very close to the end because I knew we were gonna have a discussion about it because it is something that you and I both grew to love.
There's a spanner in the works there. Spanner in the works. You did.
But yes, it is heartbreaking, and like I had said, the only hope that there was for Klaus was hope because that man did change so much when she was brought into the picture, and he became a better man. And when you talk about a overly protective father, he definitely was that, but he had his reasons.
It's more of a trust no one, and that's probably the best advice you can actually give your child. Trust no one. Always be wary, and if you're wary, something doesn't feel right, go with your fucking gut.
Yep.
And if your gut's like mine and it's fucking temperamental, ask a responsible adult.
We have to find one of those eventually, but when we do, we can start
Isn't
asking them.
Hales one?
We can start
Isn't
asking.
Hales one?
No.
Can we make her one? Are you
No,
sure?
she
Because
is
we're both
definitely
bad
not a
together.
responsible adult. I think
And we
that,
just don't make that cut really at all.
quite honestly, at this point in time, I think the most responsible adult out of our Discord would be Biddy.
Oh, because yes.
She's the one who throws everybody in line in our Discord, so I think she'd be the most responsible adult. Second to that would probably be Hatter, even though he is still immature himself. He would probably be the second most responsible adult in there. And then it would be a toss up between Woodsman and his
Put
wife.
Woodsman above Hatter. I would definitely put him above.
Okay, yeah. You are right, because I know at the very bottom of the list would be me, you, and Ailes.
You're at the very bottom, I see. That's the things. Like, I actually can't. I'm not responsible, but I'm not irresponsible that much compared to some.
I mean, I'm responsible-ish. I just get yelled at more than others. But no,
Who shouted at you? Did anyone shout at you in Discord? Is that what you're saying?
yes. But no,
I haven't
so
actually. This is the only Discord I've not been into trouble. It's great.
but yes, so Elijah and Klaus's death I had to throw at the very end because it was going to be a discussion. And I knew that there would be the heartstrings that would be tugged discussing this one because those two throughout the Vampire Diaries and the originals, you just, even though you may disagree a lot on Klaus's and Elijah's attitudes and their temperaments, you grow to love them almost more than any other character throughout the season, even though even though the cast is not really well known, you do grow to love all the characters, but Klaus and Elijah are at the top of the list. And just that very ending threw a loop for everything, and it was a shock. It was definitely a hit home kind of feels, and the heartstrings were tugged on. Um, do you have anything else to add or anything that you would like to share?
No, I was just saying, how hard did you tug on them? Was it like Trivium or
Yes,
much harder?
harder.
Harder than who were you? Team Klaus or Team Elijah?
Ooh,
I'm not asking why, I'm just asking.
Team Klaus. I honestly, I it was hard. I was almost stuck in the middle between both of them. I loved both of them. Because if I were to throw myself personally into the mindset of either of them, I would have a mindset of both of them.
You obviously not from the same point of view as you. I was always like, I was a Damon girl. I just didn't like, the. I liked Damon, but I didn't like Stefan. And it's just because Stefan annoyed the shit out of me. But when he became evil, like the Ripper, then I was like, all right, the quiet brother is actually, the dickhead when he's a vampire, basically. And
Yes.
then when we met the originals, I was like, Klaus was portrayed, again, if you haven't seen the Vampire Diaries, where the fuck have you been? It's been off TV forever. Klaus was portrayed as this evil, twisted, like, absolute dickhead of a vampire. Well, first of all, you didn't know he was a vampire, and then you find out they were all original vampires because they tried to kill them with the same sort of shit that a regular vampire. Because technically they're hybrids. Every other vampire, when you think about it, because they're not an original vampire. They obviously are from the line of
Yes.
one of the original family. So what you find out is a cool twist of one of the seasons, is it, at Vampire Diaries, and they can't kill them. I liked Elijah. I've always liked Elijah because he seems like a good guy, and he's like always like wanting to keep the family together. He also, with the way he looks after Haley when she's pregnant and stuff, he tells him like, listen, because he's hearing the
Yes.
other heartbeat and stuff.
Yep, and that was the thing. Like I said, I have a lot of the characteristics of
Elijah's
Klaus,
just
but
everything.
Klaus or Elijah's that, like you said, he's the one
Yeah,
who's
he
trying to
is.
keep the family. He's always the one that's respectful out of everything, but at the same time, when you push him, it's not a good thing. No.
Yes, he's not nice. And that's the thing, he kind of keeps himself like he's a good guy, but if you fucking cross the eye, a good
Dick.
guy, that's going to happen. That's what I like about I like about Elijah, because people expect him not to become like his. See, because literally they're vampires, they're killers. They don't expect him to be a cutthroat killer, because you see him with his suit on, and then like there's a scene, one of the first scenes when he's in Vampire Diaries, he pulls out like his pocket square type thing, like, and he's literally like, trying to get you to clean yourself up type of thing, because he's respectable, and he's just like, ugh, do you know what I mean? But then you find out, yes, he's an original vampire, but
Yes.
he's one of the ones that literally has kept their secret and made sure that no one knows about the original vampires and how to kill them and all that carry on. And that's one of the things. He's like the holder of secrets, but see the way they did the whole twist with Haley and him, and Haley and Klaus. I was just like, one or the fucking other. And then it was Jax,
Yes.
the werewolf as well. So it was like three guys. You know what I mean? That whole, not even a love triangle, it was a square, for fuck's sake. Trying to do it's like Klaus's baby, but she's supposed to be promised to that werewolf, but she didn't know about him, and then she falls in love with
That's Klaus.
Elijah, because Elijah's the one looking after her, because Klaus is
Yep.
just like being a dickhead, as he does, because he literally is a wee child. He just wants his mother's attention, and he does redo a lot of things that he's done in the past, and he's different, and you see a different version of Klaus, and that's why I end up coming on to kind of Team Klaus towards the end, because you actually see him
Yes.
being more human than werewolf and also vampire. You see him being more human, and he's like that around Caroline the most. Him as well. So that's why I think the originals is a way better written and better story. And that had a better ending than the Vampire Diaries did. I thought it was pathetic. So
Absolutely. And question for you, because it's kind of on my mind and I can't remember. Who did we meet first out of the originals? Was it Elijah?
I'm trying to think if it was Elijah. Wait a
Because
minute.
I thought
No, wait,
when they ran into that one building, um,
yeah, that was Elijah. It was there. It was the building that they were holding Elena
yes.
for
Okay, so
Klaus. So
yes,
it must have been because they hadn't. I'm going to double check that who was in Vampire Diaries first. Who showed up first in Vampire Diaries? Elijah, or because they came out at the same time. Remember, because he was trying to get all the parts for that ritual.
yes,
To turn on his werewolf side. Elijah is. Again, it was in that building where they took Elena,
that's what I
but
thought.
at that point in time, they didn't actually know that he was actually trying to stop it from happening.
Yes,
He wasn't wanting more, and it's the thing everybody expects. Elijah reminds me of, oh my god, an interview with the vampire Louis
yes,
when he
yes. Okay,
becomes a vampire, and then that's who he kind of reminds me of. Because he becomes like that, then when you see his story in Interview with the Vampire, that yeah, he was a monster, but he tries to make up for like the stuff that he's done, but like not killing humans. And then he's obviously speaking to Christian Slater about his life
yeah.
and life with Lestat and stuff, and it was literally Lestat was kind of like Klaus because he was a bit of a dick.
Yes. So did you finish Legacies?
I hadn't started it.
You hadn't started it? Okay.
I've got it all, but I just haven't watched it because I was told by mixed messages, and I wasn't known. Is Rick in it? Is it worth watching? I know obviously you don't find Rick attractive, but I'm just wanting to know if he's in it. Is Rick in it? Alaric?
Yes, Alaric's in it.
Because I'll watch it if he's in it.
He's
Not
the
really caring about anyone.
so yeah, he's the headmaster of the school. So he's the
Oh
one
my
that
goodness.
he's the one who's actually looking out after
Basically.
Hope. And he's the one that's helping train Hope and everything like that. But
His daughters.
and his daughters, and I actually, for some reason, whether I can't remember if it was actually brought to light or not from the Vampire Diaries or the originals, but finishing watching Legacies, you find out who his daughter's mothers actually are. The twins' mothers actually are.
Oh, you know that? I know who that is.
I know
It
who
was
it.
the Gemini Coven. It was Gemini Covens. That's their like what working line, and they're
But
Joe.
you find out who the mother is from Alaric's for the twins, because she ends up making
It's
an
Joe.
appearance, and it completely was like, whoa.
It's Joe. Joe is the kid's mother, is it not? Or are they saying it's someone else?
Give me a second. Let me Google it. Don't Google it. I'll Google it and see if you're right.
Oh, because she was Kai's twin, and that's who was supposed to die. Remember, because he was he didn't have regular powers. He absorbed folks' powers. Remember,
No.
and he
So
was going to win.
no. So Josie and her sister,
The blonde one.
yes, Lizzie.
Yep.
Their mother is. I almost don't want to tell you who their mother is.
Is it Klaus's mum?
No.
Klaus' sister?
No. You're gonna give me. Yeah, I know you don't like spoilers, but if you haven't watched it yet, that's kind of those things that I don't want to spoil for you.
No, I'm just like, I want to know.
It's Caroline.
How is that possible? No, because Caroline was the oven. But that makes no sense though, 'cause she's a vampire. And none of this stuff does make any sense.
It's
How is
so
that even?
yeah.
I
Caroline
can,
was the oven, but not their biological mother.
yeah,
She was the one that carried the baby. She was the ones there throughout their whole life, because Joe did die during Alaric's wedding,
yes,
during their wedding.
yeah, because
But
I killed her.
Caroline was the oven that carried them and basically raised them as her own throughout.
Yes, but she's not their biological
No,
mother.
but when she does make an appearance in Legacies, and
But
also
I thought they were
so does
always
a
going to do
Michelson.
that anyway. They were like
No,
when things start to get shit, they bring in a character from the other shows
believe
to
it
kind
or
of like, ooh,
believe
she's
it
in
or
it.
not, no, they don't. Until the very final, I want to say final season of Legacies, and the reason why is because Hope basically starts turning into her father. She completely cuts off her humanity, and then
I would do that.
that's when trouble starts arising, and that's when they bring in a Michelson
What, to break her?
to try to get her to turn her humanity back on before she completely gets too
Goes
far
mental.
gone. Yeah.
So basically, it's that they bring in a Xander,
No, the Michelson that
like
they brought.
Xander. No, because remember Xander did that for Willow when Willow loses her shit and turns her humanity off in Buffy, and Xander makes her like upset so she actually can like process everything and not become a hotter version of herself. Okay. And that's what it was. It's like, woo.
No, so they end up. It's kind of funny on how they actually, because like I said, they bring them. The Michaelsons, and it's the last Michaelsons that they bring into it. The remaining ones. Rebecca, Freya, Cole, and Marcel. They bring all them
He's not from
together.
Edmonton.
I mean, he is and he isn't, but no, you're right.
Yeah.
But they bring them in at the very end of the season to help try to bring her back from losing her humanity. And it's how they do it is, quite honestly, it'll tug on the original's heartstrings. I teared up a little bit because it does end up bringing memories back from the originals, and it does get a little emotional and sad.
Of course it does, because it's a massive universe that literally so many people have watched for different reasons as well. Some people say they didn't watch it, and then you find out they did because they knew far too much story about the fucking Vampire Diaries to get onto the originals, put it that way. Like, you're invested a bit more than you actually have been admitted to.
Yes. But, I mean,
That's how I found it.
other than that, the series was all right. Yes, Alaric is in it. Again, Hope is in it. And to me, because it didn't. I'm trying to figure out the best way to put it. It seemed like the originals and Vampire got better CGI related stuff throughout it compared to what Legacies did. It seemed like they were working with a smaller budget with Legacies.
Kind of went downhill. Like, see, I don't know if you obviously Vampire Diaries obviously it came out around about the same time as things like Twiglet. I hate Twilight. Also, True Blood and stuff. It came out around about the same time as
Yeah.
that. Like Vampire Diaries is more of a teenage version, like
Yep.
in True Blood was laughable towards the end. But see the actual budget for like the start of Vampire Diaries, obviously they didn't do very much big vampire things, and then then it's like Buffy where it cost so much to make the vampires disappear. It was like 10 grand or something like that they didn't have very many in the first season. It was the same with Vampire Diaries, and then obviously it was like season 2 or 3 of the Vampire Diaries, and then originals came out, wasn't it? So it was like halfway through. So the TV shows like obviously were backing each other, and they would have like crossovers and stuff. And that's obviously how they introduce like things like legacies and the originals and stuff to the Vampire Diaries universe. And then as the Vampire Diaries was like all the Nina Dobrev like shit, because she like literally was difficult to work with, and they killed her off, didn't they?
Yeah.
I know they never killed her off. They put her in a status, didn't they? That it was like Catherine and
Yep.
Elena, and
Just
then
for the
that's
very
when the
last
originals
episode.
got better. Yeah, and then the originals was still going strong, and again, better story. It was again older folk that were in the show as well, and a better class of acting, in my opinion, that they picked for the originals, which was good. And I don't think there's anything I didn't like about the originals. I just didn't like the fact that it ended and they killed, they killed off the brothers at the end. I was just like, nah. Do you know what I mean? So that was
Yep.
incredibly bad. But I really want to watch Legacies now. It's just that I shouldn't listen to reviews, but
Go ahead and watch it. I think you'd honestly be surprised. But like I said, it's the budget must have been really low for it because like some of the creatures that they have in it were yeah. But at the same time, it honestly had a good storyline. Ended up following, being Hope Michelson, and then the Saltzmans for Alaric, and even another character that they introduce, which ends up being a crush or a love fling between Hope and this other character. I'm not going to give a name, but he does end up. You honestly feel as if you see that he does have powers, but you honestly think he's just like got psychic powers, stuff like that. But ends up turning around. He ends up being a phoenix. So it's interesting. They do have a bunch of other, kind of creatures in it. They kind of span away from, because it is now a part of a bigger universe. They do span away from just vampires and werewolves and witches. Obviously, they have a phoenix in there, but it honestly, all in all, minus the, I want to say, I'll just say budget cut out of everything, it did have a good storyline.
Okay, that's good to know. So do you think it's better than the originals though?
No, absolutely not.
Do you think it's better than Vampire Diaries? Would it
Absolutely.
be? Oh, so basically it's in between them.
Yeah, I would honestly, I liked Vampire Diaries at the beginning, and then it did kind of start going downhill a little bit towards the end of
I
it,
betcha.
and that's kind of where I would say Legacy shined on Vampire Diaries, is more towards the end of Vampire Diaries where it started going downhill. Legacies was at that end of Vampire Diaries. It was a lot better than so, but better than the originals, no. Well, I do believe it is time to come to a close.
You said you had a fact for me.
I do. Um, so the fact that I have is an interesting one.
Hmm.
Did you know that Nightmare on Elm Street was based on a true story?
Yes.
Did you?
It was based on a serial killer that actually frequented. It was like a junkyard. Did you not know that?
No,
Is it not?
that is not the original true story. No, it is not. Even director Wes Craven has come out and said, this is what he has come out and said. Director Wes Craven revealed that the inspiration for the iconic slasher film came from a story he read from the LA Times. A boy who was having disturbing nightmares and refused to sleep for days out of fear. The same night he succumbed to his exhaustion, he died in his sleep, but not before he ended up waking up screaming for help in the middle of the night because of his nightmares.
Were they actually nightmares and it wasn't something that had like a memory, a manifestation?
I mean, this is what Wes Craven had said. I'm gonna assume that because the boy died, it was probably his mother who, got the article in the LA Times. So he probably had told his mom that they were nightmares and stuff like that, and that's what made him refuse to sleep. And then the night that he did actually finally fully succumb to being so exhausted where he needed to sleep, he did die, but not before
Wow, that
waking
is.
up and screaming. I've read that too. Um, and probably what ended up happening was with Wes Craven, because,
He was brilliant though.
Wes Craven, John Carpenter, all them guys, they have great minds to where they can probably think of something. He probably had read this story and thought it would be a great premise to a horror film, and he probably ended up reading a. Well, guys, that is everything for this episode. Let us know in the comments down below if you agree or disagree with anything that was discussed today. Um, Again, our comments are still open with the question from the beginning of the episode from what horror movies made you just but let us know if you liked it. Let us know if you enjoyed this as much as we did, and let us know what your thoughts are, and if you guys have any ideas of what we should add, what we shouldn't add, or stuff that we need to do better, we would greatly appreciate it.
There's always room for improvement.
There is always room for an improvement. But I do have one question for the viewers, the commenters.
The
Do you like
lurkers.
sex? Do you like death?
Don't we all?
Do you like horror movies?
Mm.
Oh, yes, we do.
Do you like them all together?
Next episode, oh yes, it's kind of a kink,
Exactly.
But if you do, next episode we are going to discuss our favorite sex scene deaths in horror movies or movies in general mainly horror movies, because that's normally
We talk about.
when things aren't supposed to happen.
Exactly. But there's rules, and we'll go over those rules
There
also.
there are rules.
Mm-hmm.
There are rules, and you can never, ever, ever stray from the rules.
Exactly.
Follow the
Until-
rules.
Yeah, until next week.
Is Confessions from the Dark Side. Have a good one.